Good morning students, Sai Ram. Let's continue with chapter 6 integers. In today's session, we will learn how to add and subtract integers and we will solve the problems of exercise 6.2 and 6.3. So for addition of integers, let's do a small activity. We have some white colored buttons and a few black colored buttons. Each white colored button will represent positive 1 and each black colored button will represent negative 1. So if we have 5 white colored buttons, that means it is positive 5, and if we have 3 black colored buttons, that means it is negative 3, and a pair of white button and black button will denote 0. Now if we add 3 white buttons with 2 white buttons, what do we get? We get 5 white buttons. That means positive 3 plus positive 2 gives us positive 5. Or when we add 2 positive integers, we get a positive integer. And next one, 2 black buttons plus 1 black button is equal to 3 black buttons. That means negative 2 plus negative 1 is negative 3. That means when we add 2 negative integers, we get a negative integer. So what will be the answer for next one? 4 white buttons plus 1 white button, it is 5 white buttons. That means it is positive 5. And if we add 4 black buttons with 2 black buttons, that means what do we get? We get 6 black buttons. That means negative 6. So what is the rule? To add 2 positive integers, we perform normal addition. And when we add 2 negative integers, we simply add their values and prefix a negative sign to their sum. That means simply we add the integers and the answer will take the negative sign. And how do we add a positive and negative integer? For this, let's look at this example. If we have 4 black buttons and 3 white buttons, that means negative 4 plus positive 3. That means we can take out 3 pairs of white and black buttons, and what we are left with? 1 black button. That means the answer will be minus 1. So that is what is shown here. Negative 4 can be represented as negative 1 plus negative 3, and positive 3 and negative 3, they will become 0. So negative 1 plus 0 becomes negative 1. Also, if we have 4 white buttons and 3 black buttons, that means positive 4, negative 3. So we can take out 3 pairs of white and black buttons which represent 0, and we have only 1 white button left. That means plus 4 plus negative 3 is positive 1. So what is the second rule? When we have 1 positive and 1 negative integer, we must subtract, but the answer will take the sign of the bigger integer. So if we have plus 5 plus negative 8, so what do we do? Negative 8 can be expressed as negative 5 plus negative 3. So positive and negative 5 will become 0, and what are we left with? Negative 3. So positive 5 plus negative 8 gives us negative 3. So there are some rules to remember. Positive and negative sign become a negative sign. Here we have shown this, positive and negative becomes a negative, and 2 positive signs becomes a positive sign. And we have shown this here, 2 positive signs become a positive sign, and 2 negatives will become a positive. 2 negatives will become a positive. And when we have 2 negative integers, we add them, but we will put the sign of a negative integer. We put a sign of negative there. Now how do we add the integers on a number line? For example, A, if we have 3 plus 5. So 3 is a positive integer. So from 0, we move in the right direction to reach 3, and we will move further 5 steps to the right since it is positive 5, and we reach at 8. So 3 plus 5 is 8. B, negative 3 plus negative 5. So for negative 3, from 0 we move to left and reach negative 3 here. We move further left because it is negative 5, and where do we reach? We reach at negative 8. So, negative 3 plus negative 5 is equal to negative 8. Similarly, if we have negative 3 plus positive 5. So, for negative 3 from 0 we move to the left, and here negative 3. From negative 3 we move in the right to add positive 5. 5 steps right, and where do we reach? Positive 2. So, negative 3 plus positive 5 is positive 2. Next example also we have 3 plus negative 5. So, for 3 from 0 we move to the right to get positive 3, and from 3 we move in the left because it is negative 5. So, we move to the left, and where do we reach? We reach to negative 2 after taking 5 steps to the left. So, 3 plus negative 5 is negative 2. Now, what is additive inverse? When a positive integer and a negative integer, for example 3n minus 2 or 2n minus 2, if they are added to each other, they give sum 0. Their sum will be 0. So, they are called additive inverse of each other. So, the additive inverse of 6 will be negative 6, and the additive inverse of negative 6 will be positive 6. Similarly, additive inverse of negative 7 will be positive 7. Now, let us solve the problems of exercise 6.2. Question 1. Using the number line, write the integer a 3 more than 5. For this, we move to 5 from 0 in the right towards right. So, this is 5, and it is 3 more than 5. More than means addition. So, we move again 3 steps right and reach at 8. So, 3 more than 5 is 8. Next one, 5 more than negative 5. So, from 0 for negative 5 we go to the left, and here we have negative 5, and from negative 5 it is 5 more than negative 5. That means more than means addition. So, we move in the right to the right and take 5 steps. Where do we reach? We reach at 0. That means 5 more than negative 5 is 0. C. 6 less than 2. For this, from 0 we move to 2 first, and it is 6 less than. Less than means we move in the left direction, and where do we reach? We reach at negative 4 after taking 6 steps to the left. Now, question 2. Use number line and add the following integers. A 9 plus minus 6. So, from 0 first we move to 9 in the right, and then this is positive 9. You have to show like this when you are doing this, and then it is negative 6. 9 plus negative 6. That means we move in the left towards left 6 steps, and where do we reach? We reach at 3. So, 9 plus minus 6 is 3. Next, 5 plus negative 11. So, for 5 we from 0 we move to the right plus 5 here, and from 5 we take 11 steps towards left because it is negative 11. And where do we reach? We reach at minus 6. So, 5 plus minus 11 or 5 plus negative 11 is negative 6. Next, negative 1 plus negative 7. So, for negative 1 from 0 we move 1 step towards left. This is negative 1, and from negative 1 again we will move 7 steps to the left since it is negative 7, and where do we reach? Negative 8. So, negative 1 plus negative 7 is negative 8. We have learned this. When we add two negative integers, we simply add them, and the answer will take the negative sign. Next, E negative 1 plus negative 2 plus negative 3. So, 3 times we have to move negative 1, 0 to negative 1, we move to left. This is negative 1. For negative 2, from negative 1, we move to the left 2 steps further, negative 3 we reach, and from negative 3 again 3 steps to the left, negative 3, and we get negative 6. So negative 1 plus negative 2 plus negative 3 is equal to negative 6. Next one, negative 2 plus 8 plus negative 4. So for negative 2, from 0 we move to the left, negative 2. From negative 2 towards the right 8 steps, we reach at 6, and from 6 again 4 steps towards the left, it is negative 4, and where do we reach? We reach at 2. So negative 2 plus 8 plus negative 4 is equal to 2. Question number 3, add without using a number line. Here we have to remember the rules that if we have one negative sign and one positive sign, then we subtract and it becomes negative sign. And if we have two positive signs, we add and it becomes a positive sign. And if we have two negative signs, we add them, okay, we add them and the answer takes the negative sign. So when we have one positive and one negative integer, we must subtract, but the answer will take the sign of the bigger integer. Here A, we have 11 plus negative 7. So here plus and minus becomes minus, and here we have 11 minus 7. That means it is 4. Then we can solve this one like this also. 11 can be expressed as 4 plus 7, and positive 7, negative 7, additive inverse of each other, they become 0. So what are we left with? 4 plus 0, so 4. So 11 plus negative 7 becomes 4. We can solve like this also. Then next one, B, negative 13 plus positive 18. So here two positive signs we have, it becomes positive. So we have negative 13 plus 18. And negative, when we have one negative and one positive integer, we subtract and it will take the sign of the bigger integer. So 18 minus 13 becomes 5, and the sign of the bigger integer is positive. So it is positive 5. C, negative 10 plus positive 19. So here two positive signs, here we get positive. So negative 10 positive plus 19. So here we subtract, 19 minus 10 becomes 9, and it takes the sign of the bigger integer. So it is positive 9. D, negative 250 plus positive 150. So negative 250 plus 150, it becomes two positive signs become a positive sign. So we have one positive sign and one negative sign. So we will subtract, and what do we get? We get 100, and it takes the sign of the bigger integer. So it becomes negative 100. E, negative 380 plus negative 270. So here positive and negative, it becomes negative. Now we have two integers with negative signs, so we add them and it will take the sign of the it will take negative sign. So it becomes negative 650. So when we add two negative integers, we add their values and prefix negative sign to their sum. We can also solve these problems like this. 18 can be, positive 18 can be expressed as 13 plus 5, and plus 13 and minus 13, it becomes 0. So 0 plus 5 becomes 5. So the answer is 5. Similarly, we have solved C and D also. 19 can be expressed 10 plus 9 as 10 plus 9, and positive 10, negative 10 becomes 0. So it is 0 plus 9, and the answer is 9. Similarly, 250 can be expressed as negative 100 plus negative 150, and negative 150, positive 150, they become 0. So the answer is negative 100. Next, question number 4. Find the sum of 137 and negative 354. So 137 plus negative 354, it becomes 137 minus 354, plus and minus become minus. And when we have one positive and one negative integer, what do? We subtract, and we get the answer as negative 217. B, negative 52 and positive 52. They are additive inverse of each other, so the answer is 0. C, negative 312, 39 and 192. So we have these three integers. So it becomes, first we will add the positive integers, and what do we get? We get 231. Now we have one negative integer and one positive integer. We subtract, and what do we get? We get 81, and the sign of the bigger integer is negative, so it becomes negative 81. Question number 5, find the sum of, we have to find the sum. We have 4 integers here, negative 7 plus negative 9 plus 4 plus 16. So what do? We take the negative integers together and add them, and positive integers, and we add them, and then we will find the sum. So negative 9, negative 7 and negative 9 becomes negative 16, positive 4 and positive 16 becomes positive 20. So we have one positive and one negative integer. The difference we will find, it is 4, and the sign of the bigger integer is positive, so it is positive 4. B, 37 plus negative 2 plus negative 65 plus negative 8. So what do? We first add all the negative integers. So here first we will add negative 2 and negative 65. What do we get? We get negative 67. Now we add negative 67 and negative 8. We get negative 75. Now we have one negative and one positive integer. When we subtract them, we get 38. Sign of the bigger integer is negative, so we get negative 38. Now subtraction of integers. Till now we were learning the addition of integers. Now subtraction of integers. First we will learn with the help of number line, and then we will solve the problems. So we have to remember these things when we subtract integers, and when we subtract a positive integer, we move to the left on a number line. It is just the opposite of the addition. Okay, so to subtract a positive integer, we move to the left, and to subtract a negative integer, we move to the right. To subtract 3 from 2 on a number line, that means 2 minus 3. What do? We start from 2 and move to the left by 3 steps. And what do we get? We get negative 1. Next, to subtract 1 from negative 3 on a number line, we start from negative 3 and move to the left by 1 step. And we reach at negative 4, or we get the answer as negative 4. Negative 4 is the answer. Negative 3 minus negative 3 minus 1 is equal to negative 4. Next, to subtract negative 3 from 2. So it is 2 minus minus 3. Okay, 2 minus negative 3. So for subtracting negative integer, we move in the right direction. So we start from 2. We start from 2 and move 3 steps in the right direction. Where do we get? We reach at 5. That means we get 5. So 2 minus minus 3 is 5. So we have to remember this subtraction of integers. To subtract an integer from another integer, it is enough to add the additive inverse of the integer that is being subtracted to the other integer. This means if we have to subtract a negative integer from another integer, then instead of subtracting the negative integer, what do? We can take the additive inverse of the negative integer and add it. So here we can do it as negative 10 plus negative 10 plus additive inverse of negative 4. So it is negative 10 plus 4, which gives us negative 6. Similarly, to subtract positive 3 from negative 3, what do? From negative 3, we will have to subtract positive 3. So what we do, instead of taking this, we will add the additive inverse of positive 3. So it is negative 3 plus negative 3, because additive inverse of positive 3 is negative 3. So negative 3 plus negative 3 becomes negative 6. Now let's solve the problems of exercise 6.3. Question 1, find 35 minus 20. So we have here 35 and we have to subtract a positive integer. So instead of that what we do, we add a additive inverse of positive 20. So it is 35 plus negative 20. So it becomes 35 minus 20, because positive and negative sign become negative. So 35 minus 20 is 15. B, 72 minus 90. So what we do, we add the additive inverse of 90. So it becomes 72 plus negative 90. That means what do we get? 72 minus 90, we get negative 18 as the answer. C, negative 15, negative 15 minus negative 18. So negative, we will take it as this, negative 15 plus additive inverse of negative 18. Instead of subtracting negative integer, what we do, we take the additive inverse of negative 18 and add it. So it becomes negative 15 plus 18 and the answer becomes 3. We simply subtract and take the sign of the bigger integer. E, 23 minus negative 12. So here we have two negative signs. So according to the rule also it becomes positive and we take additive inverse of negative 12. So it becomes 23 plus 12 and it becomes 35. F, if we have negative 32 minus negative 40. So it becomes negative 32 plus additive inverse. Here we will take additive inverse of negative 40 and add it. So negative 32 plus 40, it becomes 8. Now fill in the blanks with bigger than, lesser than or is equal to sign. So we have to solve both the sums on the left side and the right side and compare the answers. So on the left side we have a negative 3 plus negative 6. So it becomes negative 3 plus negative 6 becomes negative 9. Okay, and here negative 6 minus negative negative 3 minus negative 6. So negative it becomes positive. So it is negative 3 plus 6 and it becomes 3. So which one is bigger? Obviously positive 3 is greater than negative 9. So we can put the sign like this. Next B, negative 21 minus negative 10 on the left side. So negative 21 and these two signs become plus positive sign. So negative 21 plus 10. So the answer becomes negative 11. And here on the right side, negative 31 plus negative 11, we have two integers. This plus and minus becomes minus. So we have two integers with negative sign, we add them and it becomes negative 42. So which one is bigger? Negative 11 is bigger than negative 42. So we put a sign like this here. Next one is question 3, fill in the blanks. A, negative 8 plus dash is equal to 0. So what do we add to negative 8 to get 0? It's additive inverse. So its additive inverse is 8. So we fill the blank with 8. B, 13 plus dash is equal to 0. So what is the additive inverse of positive 13? It is negative 13. So it becomes 0. C, 12 plus minus 12 or negative 12 is 0, isn't it? When we add to the additive inverse of the number, it becomes 0. D, negative 4 plus negative 8. When we add these, we have a blank here. Negative 4 plus dash is equal to negative 12. So what do we add to negative 4 to get negative 12? We add negative 8. E dash minus 15 is equal to minus 10. So what do we subtract from 15 to get 10? We subtract 5 and it takes the sign of the bigger number, so it becomes negative 10. Question number 4. Find a negative 7 minus 8 minus negative 25. So here we have these two negatives become positive. So we get negative 7 minus 8 plus 25. So it becomes, we add the integers with negative sign first. We get 15, negative 15, negative 15, positive 25. When we add them, what do we get? We simply have to subtract and take the sign of the bigger integer. So we get 10. B is negative 13 plus 32 minus 8 minus 1. So we take all the negative integers together, it becomes negative 13 minus 8 minus 1 plus 32. So when we add these three negative integers, we get negative 22 plus 32 we get, and when we have one positive, one negative integer, we subtract, we get 10. Then C, negative 7 plus negative 8 plus negative 90. So here this plus and minus becomes minus. So positive and negative becomes negative. So here also one positive, one negative becomes negative. So minus 7, minus 8, minus 90. First we will add minus 7 and minus 8. We get minus 15 and minus 15 minus 90. We have two negative integers. We add them and sign will be negative sign. So we get negative 105 as the answer. Children, this is the end of the chapter integers. A few problems which were left from the exercise were very simple and same kind of problems which we have explained here. So you have to solve them as your homework. Thank you.